that he be allowed to speak for a couple minutes to start off.
Use a loud voice.
Okay. So I have some grave concerns as it relates to the basketball courts. Back in 2015, 2016, the big issue was, 16, 17, 18, the big issue was we had lost the basketball goals. Well, that was a true statement, okay? We lost the basketball goals because of the illicit criminal activity that was proven over and over and over again. So there was no argument about that. So they took them down, okay, to deter some of the negative activity. So what we were looking at and what I was interested in is still finding out how can we get our, as they call, at-risk youth still actively engaged in recreational activities. Well, we all know basketball is a great way to do it. So we use the senior building, which is our recreation building, and we would have youth events and activities. Well, I'm not sure what happened or who dropped the ball, but all of a sudden now we have residents coming together, and bravo, I applaud them, but they're coming together to put basketball hoops back in Norwood. And what I feel like is when I made the challenge, the part that I think certain people didn't either care to listen to or they didn't hear, I know the inner city and I know the inner city mindset probably better than anybody that's on council, ever sat on council, and possibly will ever sit in Norwood Council. So that being said, guys, my big concern is who in their right mind, and when I'm speaking tonight, I don't mean to be offensive to anybody, and I apologize if it comes off that way. But you see what I don't want to see happen? I don't want to see us in our immature reality of what these community basketball areas bring. And then we set up a situation where if it's open, I'm going. But guess what? I'm not coming on my own. I'm bringing my cousins. I'm bringing my uncles. I'm bringing people that, quite frankly, the reason you tore them down. So now we have a group that's committed to put money to literally bring that element here, or we agree when the element comes, we have to have a solution. And so far, guys, that solution has been criminal in its approach. I know, and I'm hearing different things, that the funding came part of last administration, a group had a grant, so on and so forth. I get that. But your responsibility as the current administration is to keep the residents safe. I would much rather squash $200,000 than to take a chance of, number one, somebody coming from somewhere else and being subject to a criminal charge because they're going to smoke. So who's going to monitor? Why are we creating these avenues, guys, that are going to set up certain cultures to fail? And it is your responsibility, regardless of whoever came up with this crazy notion. We have a senior building. Why isn't the funding going into that building where you could have people like me and my wife's nonprofit group, which we volunteered over a year and a half ago, to provide the adult supervision to monitor when these youth are in there? We brought in the police and the fire with the at-risk youth a few years ago. Not one incident. Not one. Why are we approving to spend this kind of money when anybody who is halfway blind can see? I was just there last week. a baseball game going on just feet away, and you have 5 youth, none of them over 13 years of age, smoking marijuana right there. What do you think is going to happen the nicer this court gets? And then what are you going to do? You're going to go out and monitor it? This was a ridiculous plan, a ridiculous idea. And of course, if you go and ask some youth, hey, what do you think about a basketball goal? Duh. They're going to say, great, it's a great idea. Oh, we get basketball back. But look at what's going around the country right now, guys. We cannot afford to continue to set things up to give people a reason to fail or to bring in an element that neither one of you are prepared, willing, or able to address. So I had been ill, dealing with some health issues. This thing just took off, and now I think we have a mess. And here you all are getting ready to stamp some approvals or just say, hey, we got basketball back. There's more at stake than just basketball. And I'm very not pleased with how these groups get their statistics. Where did they get all of the facts? Who talked to them? You don't believe me? Go to Westwood. Go to Price Hill. Go to Avondale. Go to Bond Hill. Just drive a few miles and see. It's right in front of your eyes. And to think that we're going to put up this beautiful, beautiful facility, heavens, you go down there right now and the rims are down. Who's going to monitor this? I think this was one of the most foolish ideas that we've had. And I apologize for all the hard work that some of our residents put into it, some of our community groups. They mean well, and I understand that. But in this era that we're facing right now, guys, this is bonehead. More research needs to go into it, or a game plan. And that's what I'm here to hear. If you have a game plan for this thing, then I'm all open for it. But I haven't heard a game plan yet other than, woohoo, we got basketball back.
I can go to some answer because I'm one of the boneheads who spearheaded it.
And I don't mean anything personal, first of all.
Well,
let's clarify.
But you come in here and you start accusing people of being boneheads, and I'm one of
the bonehead idea, not the person.
I'm owning up to it.
Okay.
I'm owning up to it. This has been discussed at every single one of the Parks and Recs meetings that I had over the last 2 years. If you miss those,
I've had some health issues.
I understand it. It's not that this came out of nowhere. It was kind of in the works even before I got going with it.
Mm-hmm.
We did this starting off. We started with the idea, and the first thing we did was we got together with the police department, and we looked at. We want to bring basketball courts back to Norwood, but we understand that there was criminal activity happening with them. We also understood that there were many, many courts that were on the periphery of Norwood, and it made it hard for them to police. So we said, if we wanted to do a trial on one of these, what's a good court we could do that on? We said, well, Waterworks Court, it's already not in horrible shape. It's in the center of town. It's in a popular place with other residents who are there for other reasons. And it should be fairly easy for police to monitor. So that is why that court was chosen. We didn't choose other courts around because we understood there was a very real problem. So the police have been involved in the very beginning. I would encourage you that if you see kids smoking dope in the basketball court, to make a phone call. Now, if you don't want to do that, then go over there and ask them to stop. But I think part of the reason of having it with lots of people around is the same reason when we want lots of people to show up to Victory, to show up to any park, is because when you have good things happening in a park, it spurs other good things. So that's what we did when we chose that basketball court to be the one. I'm sorry you disapprove. I'm particularly very proud of the fact that we're able to bring basketball courts back for our youth, and quite frankly, anybody else who wants to come and play basketball, if they can do it safely and not participate in illegal behavior. That's why we have our police here, to be able to help monitor that. We've also got the Waterworks Park, which has tons of people at it. There's always people at the baseball games. It is a busy area. That's why it was chosen. There's been, now I will say, part of the whole effort to do this, we kind of got it going on council, and we had interest from community groups that wanted to put in money. There was the Gym of the Highlands wanted to start money. That was sort of the first injection of capital where we did it. That said, okay, we can get some interest, and more interest followed, and more interest followed, where we ended up getting money from police department, fire department, private donors, Gym of the Highlands, ASAP, grants. It is an incredibly broad community effort that was like this, and I am very sorry that you don't appreciate the effort that went into it, and that you think it was a boneheaded effort that went into it. We also put new courts in the rec center, brand new wood floors, so that is also open to do basketball and other programs too. So it's fine that you don't like the idea. I don't want anybody to get arrested, but I do want our kids to have a place that they can go play ball in the park.
Let me clarify. I have done some bonehead things in my life. I don't consider myself to be a bonehead. So I would never call anybody or intend to call anybody a bonehead. What I'm saying to you and to anyone who participated, I don't care if it's the police, I don't care if it's the fire, I don't care about whoever got grant money. That means nothing to me when I'm telling you, if you don't bring a certain facet to the table, then you are like the blind leading the blind, and maybe we use it so that certain groups can go after more funding to fund other projects. It makes absolutely no sense why our police department would have to be involved when we simply already have a senior recreation building that I have personally used when we had our youth urban wrestling team here. That was our location. Until our program grew so large, it was too small for our program. We had the youth playing basketball. What I'm saying to you is this. You can look around the country and you can see what demographic is really, really, really being affected by a lot of disproportionate execution of law. Just a few days ago, my wife and I and my 8-year-old daughter just watched 5 Norwood youth, none of them African American, smoking dope with the entire baseball field and parking lot filled with people. My problem with this is real simple. If the police department, if the police department would vote this in, then the police department should also put some funding in to monitor it so that they're there at all times, so that the element that's coming will be encouraged not to. But then that takes it from being an open community project to an isolated community project. And where I come from, that opens the door for discrimination. And it's not that I don't like the idea. Let me say again, maybe you didn't hear me. I was one of those pushing for more basketball for our youth. So they take the idea, sir, okay? And instead of hearing every part of the plan, they take the idea, they go after funding, so now it looks good, makes us look great. But I'm here to tell you, the very first time when I can see non-African Americans down there smoking dope, no police around, and the very first time an officer in my city pulls up because they look and see a bunch of minorities down there playing and now they want to police, we're going to have a tremendous problem. Absolutely tremendous problem. Not because that's what I wish. What I'm saying is we've got to do a better job of protecting one another. Some of these characters that act out, they're not even involved in the fight. They're just angry because somebody said something happened 100 years ago. And they walk in that anger. I don't want, if you have any children, I don't want your daughter walking down the street one day and somebody to misperceive what our motives are here and walk up and do something to his daughter because of a decision we made. I don't care about how much money was going into it. I'm talking about the safety and the well-being, because those brothers that are going to come, you can't do anything with them. You don't believe me? Turn your TV on. They're not afraid of that badge. Our Norwood officers, come on. Nothing against our officers. I respect our officers. But that wave that would be coming to them, they're not even prepared for such a thing. And we open the door for it? Where was the minority leadership engagement in this? How many of you went to the hood and just parked your car and watched before you even said, hey, great idea? Who went and just took a survey? I would guarantee you, if I put 2 goose eggs up to my eye, please prove me wrong, gentlemen. Please prove me wrong. Tell me what park you went to. Tell me what basketball court you went to. And tell me what's the schedule of our Norwood Police Department, since they're involved in it. What's their schedule to monitor this? Not to arrest the minorities that are going to come. What's our game plan to de-escalate it? So yes, that makes me very angry because I was on the forefront of this. But like so often in Norwood, you come up with a great idea and others seem to just adopt it. And it becomes their whole mission and goal. But in this case, sir, they got it wrong. They took an idea and they went to La La Land with it. And from where I come from, it's a setup waiting to happen. And what you see around the country is, I don't want that setup to cause innocent people to be hurt or affected. So my input on this, I love basketball. Give me a plan. Do we have a plan? I have not heard it yet. So I'm here to give you an opportunity to say, hey, my brother, you're wrong. And I'll say, oh, thank you. Here's our plan. Here's our schedule. Here's who's keeping that element away. Because I can deal with it. The question, though, is, can you?
I believe I said I'm very happy to have put the basketball courts in. So
yes.
My honest answer is yes, I can deal with it. I don't know what the police's schedule is for their routine patrols. I would be happy to find out how often they drive by down there for you. Again, I'm sorry that you're so upset about the fact that we did this with one of our parks. I'm sorry you didn't feel included. I didn't know that you had had this idea years ago. I wasn't a part of that conversation. I was a part of conversations that I had with other people. I can assure you that I would never take someone's idea and run another direction with it. So please, none of this was done out of disrespect to you or any idea you may or may not have had.
And I don't mean that towards you. And
I understand that,
was a universal conversation.
But I understand that. But oftentimes, and when I say oftentimes, nearly every single time you come and talk to us in council, you bring up the fact that you had an idea or you suggested something and nobody did anything about it, and then somebody else got the idea and ran with it.
Mr. J, if I could just for a minute, I've only known Miss Bartosik for a short amount of time, about 5 months now. She's the person that's head of ASAP Norwood, is the drug abuse prevention program here in Norwood. She's a very kind, very intelligent woman, very passionate. I don't think her or anybody involved with their organization would try to do something purposely to try to entrap or set up
Well, I
minority
believe that.
groups or anything like that. I mean, can a basketball court get a little hot and heavy with people playing and some arguments happen? Certainly. As with anything, stuff like that might happen, but I don't think that's the goal there is to try to get people there to get them in trouble. Whether they're smoking marijuana there or anything like that, I don't know that that's just going to attract that behavior. Being a coach myself, I know when kids have more things to do, they're not going to go over here and do reckless behavior type things.
They were just smoking dope a few days ago, sir. So that's not a true statement. And my concern is, not to cut you off, and I apologize, Chris. Giving you respect, I'm sorry. Okay? My concern is, I don't want to see, I witnessed it myself. Now, one officer is down there, and I've been on the streets in the middle of the night when most of you are in bed sleeping. And I see the youth come to me and go, hey, I think they're profiling me. Okay, get in my car. I'm going to take you home. Get off the street, first of all. Shouldn't be outside. You look like you're going to do something. What I'm saying is basketball in general is a great way of exercise. We grew up on it. I get it. It's not a problem. What I'm saying is, in this day and age, you cannot be motivated by grant money or whatever to make somebody look good without more facts. And all I'm saying is, and I apologize if I've said anything that makes you think that I think people got together and said, hey, let's do something that's going to get a certain demographic locked up. I don't mean that. What I'm saying is, if you take a basketball goal down because of a reason, what would all of a sudden make you think that you can put it back up and that same element's not going to come without a game plan to address it? And all I'm saying is, if it was there then, nothing's changed. Now you bring it back and everybody is going to tell their cousins and everybody. What changed? In fact, now, marijuana now is more casually used. Just go to your middle school and talk to the children about marijuana use. They're going to tell you, oh, especially in Norwood, oh, everybody's doing it. Or something more harsh like heroin. It just draws the element. And all I'm saying is, who did the research? Do I challenge my police department? I'm okay with that. Do I challenge my fire department? I'm okay with that. Do I challenge you? I'm okay with that. Not challenge to beat anybody down, but challenge to say, I want everybody to be safe. That's all I'm saying. And this element, you cannot deal with it. I recently watched Chief Isaac on TV, okay, say, oh my God, just feet away, they're shooting at us. You don't understand that element, sir. You couldn't stand next to that element, sir. No disrespect to anybody. And as God is my witness, I'm not here to insult anyone. I applaud you for the effort that you're putting in. But if they show up, the only one that can relate to that element that I know of in this neighborhood, you're looking at them. But why would I want to go and defend when I'm saying, let's rethink. Let's go and do some surveys before we announce this thing. Let's go really take a look. And I guarantee you, it ain't going to take you many surveys to figure it out. It's coming. Then let's get a game plan. See, that was the part of it that was missing. Am I crazy, or have you all not seen the TV? Who's going to stop that in little bitty Norwood? Who's going to stop it? Whose job is it? You want my officers to be, their lives to be in jeopardy because of a decision we made? I want my police officers to be safe every day. My son wants to be an officer in Norwood. He's hoping one day to be the chief here. Do you think I want my son not to come home safe because of a decision that a small group made based on what motivation that eliminated research?
Again, it was a decision of the city and the city administration, but
But I don't care who made the decision, and I say that respectfully, sir. I'm saying, can we backtrack a little now and say, hey, let's get some research? Maybe we need a game plan with our police officers. And here's the other thing, and don't get this twisted. I just witnessed 5 youth, none of them African American. Not one police officer zooming around, nowhere. The very first time you get a group of young African Americans hanging out down there better not be more police presence.
Well, hold on,
Or
Mr.
the
James.
appearance.
Hold on, Mr.
I'm not
James.
saying it's going to happen.
So I'm a little confused because you're talking about this element is so bad and it's going to come here and it's coming here because we put basketball hoops up.
Unmonitored, not
but-
just putting up the hoops.
But yet, what you're saying here also is, but when that element that you're calling so dangerous comes, we better not police it. That doesn't make sense. I don't think that
Do you really
the
think
thought
that's
that went into this, I think, was done in a very good way, a kind way of doing the basketball courts. I think personally, even though I'm a wrestling coach, they're needed. There's a little wrestling and basketball doesn't mix, but
No, I get
I think they're needed. They're necessary. It keeps kids busy. It's something for them to do. Whatever the police schedule is going down there, we can figure that part out. Like Mr. Thompson said, the police have been involved since the beginning with the planning. I can reach out to Lieutenant Murphy, Chief Kramer, and ask and do my homework, especially to learn more about this situation that we're coming into. And I can talk to Mr. Thompson and learn more as well, which probably should have done before this, but that's our bad, and I'm gonna do better than that. And we can relay that information. I would suggest you do that yourself too, and say, hey, what are we gonna do about this? How are we gonna? What's the thought here? Are police gonna patrol down there more once they're completed? The auxiliary cops even, and just kind of find that information out yourself too. Well, whatever I find, I'm more than happy to share, or even talk about this committee further, or send you an email.
I don't know if there's a world where we want to backtrack so much that we start to ruin what a bunch of work was getting.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sold yet that a game plan like you're talking about doesn't exist where we mitigate within a reasonable level some of the bad, because the upside here seems to me to be higher. It doesn't exist yet, but with a game plan, the upside seems like it could be a spark to something really great, because I did think they put some of that effort, and I've heard Ms. Bartosik, I've heard the way Eric's talked about something like this, I've heard the fact that Donna Lake is a pretty sharp lady,
Yes.
put a lot of time into this sort of thing, and the cops were involved. I think there's just one little step, and it's either coming up with a game plan, or, and I hope this is the case, and it might even be so, the game plan may exist, and some of those statistics that I don't know about might exist, because Lauren's a doctor. I mean, she probably did some of that. I bet that I shouldn't say. I hope that there's some sort of game plan that already exists that just needs to be communicated. Okay? Maybe it's a communication lag where people like you, me, Chris, that weren't around here last time, just didn't realize that some of those steps may already in place and just need to be tweaked, improved.
Or even be vocalized. Maybe that's the
Sure.
case.
I don't think your point's completely lost here. I just don't want to go so far back that we ruin a lot, because the downside here is that it gets bad and we have to pull the rims again. That's the worst case scenario in my mind. Because I don't think they'll let it escalate to a point where, I hope, where that the worst is beyond that. Because I think they'll go, worst case, I'm seeing the rumblings of something I can't handle. I'm going to go back to where I was today, right now today. That to me, I hope we're smart enough to stop there. The upside, with the game plan and some thought behind it, which I haven't seen, but maybe it exists, seems bigger, seems better. And I'm kind of hoping on that side.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm in 100%. All I said was, well, I said a lot, but the But the crust of it is, without getting more facts, if you tear the goals down because of an element and nothing's changed, in fact, that element has become even more aggressive, then why didn't we do some research and then have a game plan? You guys should know me by now. I'm not just interested in talking or propelling somebody's own agenda or whatever. I want our residents and our officers to be safe. All you have to do is turn on your TV. Without an army of them standing by them, they don't stand a chance. I don't want that for my officers.
I promise that's not lost. I think that the
That's
action,
all I'm trying. That's where my passion is. Residents, officers.
I think this issue is something that definitely we can get from the police department, more information, and like I said, I'll definitely take it there. I encourage
I'll
you to do
reach
the
out
same.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
man,
maybe
a lot of the resources, the people are already on this team.
yeah.
Yeah.
But people like Lauren, people like Lieutenant Murphy, some of the actual change makers that can come up with a plan, they exist. Either, and as I said, I think it's worth repeating, either the rumblings of that game plan are there and they just need to be documented and communicated for all of us to hear better, so that you can be a part of maintaining that game plan, or they need to be fixed, improved, whatever, and there's an opportunity to do that because the goalposts and the paint hasn't been laid yet. They should be. We should stick to the plan, but there's still a window of time to come up with something because I think there's more upside. So
I am for basketball in Norwood for the 5th time. I am for it. My thing was, even for a committee to be talking about something and you don't know the game plan, where I come from, that's kind of cockeyed backwards. And so when you present something to residents in lieu of everything you're seeing across the country right now, somebody's got to stop and think and say, in lieu of everything we're seeing, what is it that we haven't thought about? Think of it. Get the team together. I don't have to be a part of it. I'm saying think about who those players are and say, hey, have we thought of this? Have we thought of this? And I'm sorry, Murphy, you mentioned, and Doc, I mean, wonderful human beings, right? How much experience, personal experience, have they had with this particular element? Okay? And so if they don't have experience, how do you generate something that you know nothing about? And all I'm saying is, get more community input, go to Price Hill, go to the West Side. I can take it to Avondale and Bond Hill right now. They hop the gate in Bond Hill every day. Every day. And go up to them and say, hey, get out of there. I say, okay, come on over here, help me out with it. Come on over here, help me out. I don't want that for our officers, guys. I want my son, when he becomes old enough and he's on the force, I want my son to be safe. That's all I'm saying. I'm for basketball, guys. I'm an athlete, so former athlete.
And I definitely appreciate the words.
I just wanted, Mrs. Robinson, did you have anything you'd like to say about this?
Yeah, I was going to let Mr. James finish, or I didn't know if he was going to add to.
Oh, no, by all means.
Do you want me here? Okay. So I was watching at home, and I just felt like I needed to kind of come up and kind of give a little historical perspective on this. And I'll be brief, but this really is something that's been in the works for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. And before Lauren, I was the coordinator for the ASAP Norwood program, and there was a lot of research that went into this, a lot of intergenerational, a lot of various ethnicities, and really how it started was as one of our core tenets has always been reclaiming public spaces. That was something that when we started 8 years ago, that people said that was important, that we find a way to reclaim these public spaces so that people can enjoy our parks and our common areas. So that's always been on the forefront, and that was done over a 3-day or 3-session community engagement process that came up. So the very base of that came up through that. This has always been something that we've talked about and we've kicked around, and you've been part of that. I mean,
Yes.
you've been invited to be
Yes.
part of that committee. You were on the email list for several years,
Yes.
and actually what happened is our kids in our youth empowerment program, our youth leadership team, said, this is crazy. If you all can't get it done, we'll get it done. And they started a campaign. They started a petition campaign. They started doing activities. They started getting people involved. They had hundreds and hundreds of signatures. They did activities to get people understanding why basketball was so important to them. They got news coverage about it, you know. So this happened a while, and those were kids from multiple ethnicities, men, boys and girls. As that continued to go on, it was something we continued to have conversation about. We talked about it in our committee, which is our committee is a cross representation. So there was police on that, the health department, schools, community organizations, faith-based organizations, what a coalition is made up of. And as we continue to do our ongoing work with Interact for Health, it became clear that they were willing to help us sponsor this, help us get this if we could rally some other funds, which we were able to rally some other funds. The police donated money, I guess they're the charity part of it, and then the Norwood, the fire department, their charity part, and then several other organizations, and I don't want to leave people out, but it was a multiple thing. They wouldn't even just pay for it on their own. We had to have multiple businesses, multiple people involved. We taught the research that goes into it. Every 2 years, our students are surveyed, and it's an evidence-based survey that's done across the country, that's valid and reliable, and it tells us where our kids are in all different kinds of things, and one of those things is where they're at in their usage and how they use their time. And we know that the research tells us that when kids have constructive use of time, they're less likely to be involved with substances. It tells us when adults are involved in the lives of kids, they are less likely to be involved with substances. Does that mean every kid? No, it does not. But more kids involved with out of school time where they have something to do and they have some structure, it's helpful to them. So there's all of the research in prevention science. Then there's all of our research, which tells us that our numbers are going down. Over the last 10 years, our numbers of kids that are using alcohol and 30-day use is going down. The number of kids that are using tobacco is going down. The number of kids that are using prescription drugs are going down. Marijuana, we're struggling with. Across the country, we're struggling with that. But these are all things that we know. All of these activities we know make a difference. We also know when adults are involved in the lives of kids, it makes a difference. So can we just turn kids loose to the wind? No, but it does mean that as adults we need to interact with them. So some of the things that are planned are some 4-on-4 tournaments, some things where we've got some 4-on-4 tournaments. So I think that's the right term for basketball. I don't know. Where Xavier Basketball has agreed to be part of that. You know, I guess that was pre-COVID, so I don't know what's happening now, but to help with running some of those things. Is it foolproof? Probably not. But to say that no community work had been done in researching this and getting this started is not accurate. And to say that having basketball hoops are the thing, you know, that it's going to attract. You know, part of the research that went into this also was talking with the police officers and knowing that, you know, in our original goal, to be really honest, our original goal was let's get a basketball hoop in every park. And it was talking to our officers and realizing the risk of having these hoops on these outlying areas, that wasn't a good plan. A good plan was making it more central, a more populated place, a place where people go much more frequently. Our most frequented park is Waterworks, right? So it's not a perfect plan. None of these are perfect plans, but it didn't happen in isolation. It wasn't just a couple of do-gooder people that came together or bonehead people that came together. It was a well thought out plan, and it came together with a lot of people coming together and figuring this out, and a lot of kids. This is, for a lot of kids, this is their dream. This is what they've been working on for 5 and 4 and 5 years that they've invested their time into making happen. So I really do, that's what I wanted to say. So I apologize for.
Ms. Robinson, thank you for coming out and giving some clarification. I appreciate it. And Mr. James, I'll definitely check in with the police department. I recommend doing the same, and we'll try to figure out what we can with that.
And if I could just address, and I appreciate Ms. Robinson leaving her home, rushing over here to defend the rights of the children that are involved in this. Listen, I'm always an advocate for youth activities. That's none of what I've addressed. No one's come up with evidence of a plan. Mr. DiNardo did say, hey, maybe there's something in place and we got to look into that. Chris said he's going to look in. I'm good with that. I applaud that. All I'm saying is, in Norwood, to traditionally get away from that mindset, and sir, Eric, I will say this to you, right? And I want to make sure that anybody listening, you can hold me to this, okay? In no way, shape, or form, sir, am I ever interested? Am I ever open to the continuous insulting or the barrage against my intention or my character as it pertains to challenging what the history of your community has on its shoulders. So I want to encourage you, sir, as I encouraged in an earlier meeting, to make sure no one can take what I'm saying as an act of aggression or my intent is to throw this table over there on top of you. That's not what I'm trying to do. But am I going to challenge you? Absolutely. Am I here because I care? Absolutely. Anyone listening right now, I am not taking away the hard work that went into it. What I'm saying, sir, is we've got to start acting a bit smarter. I don't care if you took 100 children from Norwood. I don't care if you lined up every child in Norwood. My question to them would be, do you or your family have any experience with the issues that might bring anything negative? If you didn't ask that question, then I have a right to challenge. If you didn't call Murphy or whoever officer you mentioned, nothing against Mr. Murphy. But if you don't have hands-on experience, all of the data that supposedly, or not supposedly, I'm sorry, all of the data that went into this, does that data monitor everything that's happening right this second in our other parks in Cincinnati?
Well, Mr. James, we went on a little bit longer than I hoped to about this, but we're going to look into that. We're going to ask those questions, and I encourage you to do the same. I do appreciate you coming to speak. I don't want to shut you down, but we do have a couple other items to get to, so I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for mentioning, maybe we need to look into a plan. Thank you, Chris, for acknowledging.
No problem, Mr.
Because I don't want to go backwards.
I'm going to speak to Donna, just because I already have a relationship with her. And
She's a wonderful person.
On there.
Yes.
Privately talk to the guy sitting right next to me, and he's going to talk to the police. I'm not looking at this completely objectively. I have a lens right now, and that lens is the types of folks that are on that panel. They think a lot about a lot of this stuff, and I have a belief that they've thought about some of the concerns we have, at least to some level. And if I can feel a little more confident about those two things, and he feels a little more confident about the police, great. We'll let you know. If we don't, then we'll let you know too for a different reason.
Yeah.
But those are the three people. That's an action step that we're going to try to handle the game plan you're talking about. But I do have a lens of leaning forward.
Thank you. And I'm in support of it going forward with a game plan for fair execution of any consequences. That's all I'm concerned about. That's it. And thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you for coming out and speaking.
And thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, moving on to Burwood Park updates.
Take it back.
Yeah.
Mr. DiNardo, would you
Yeah.
like to bring us up to speed?
So there were kids playing on the Burwood Park in the new blue mulch that they set up. So it looks pretty good down there. There's still, it's funny, the standard that Clint holds his parks to, I actually thought it was pretty good and had kind of like a, all right, man, this is nice. And he was annoyed that there was a strip of weeds growing, or that someone didn't cut. So it just goes to show like the level of scrutiny he puts on these things. That was just an interesting side note. But when we were down at Birdwood, the side closest to the parking lot looks pretty awesome. But it's also been pretty dry, so of course it looks pretty awesome. The part that we've always struggled with is around March and April. I know no one was using the park, and then again around August through October, it's going to be like a swamp down there again, like it is every year. So we put into the budget some $13,000 something to try to address that flooding. After some bids and different project plans, some of them involving dry creek beds that the Burwood Park Advisory Committee or Champions Group was drawing up and sending ideas for. Those unfortunately all exceed $40,000. So I just don't think it's a 2020 game plan. But some of the drainage options we got from one of the contractors through kind of like French drains or just actual drainage solutions with PVC underground and then just normal grass on top, that was more in like the $18,000 to $20,000. Then Clint went a bit further and said, I can use some of he had all of the bids, break them down into line items, I suppose the easiest way to say it, and cherry picked things that he thinks Public Works can handle. And there is a world where $13,000 can probably be hit. The issue then becomes prioritization of his team's time. This would take up the backhoe for at least 7 to 8 days. The backhoe is on like hot because they're handling their current projects and roads and water problems that they're trying to address, which is pretty important as we head into the August rainy period. So he's committed to talk to Safety Service Director John Murphy about seeing when on the schedule we could get there. And it's probably around the fall. He didn't really want to be held to it, so I don't want to hold him to it, but it's a commitment to talk about it in August, September. So just to let you guys know, drainage will be addressed. We committed to it, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen in budget. Now, because of the things to make it happen, to make it stay in budget, we're really talking about timing and when we can tie up the resources that he's responsible for. So the only update is we did all the bidding and ideation, and it just kind of has to put a table on this until we'll talk about it in August, with hopefully a fall-ish addressing the flooding. It's probably a little late for the next rainy period, but we're further than we were before because we got a path.
Yeah.
Then we talked about addressing the pool. That will probably be around the same time that we address Victory Park in his mind and in the administration's mind. We didn't go any further on that because that's.
I was going to ask too, because currently the money slated for the pool at Victory Park is for 2021.
That's right.
So are you talking about doing that too, 2021?
So you've nailed it. Because we want to probably do whatever solution the administration comes up with at Victory, we want to do that with Burwood and vice versa. So that was probably poor planning on my part to split them up because they should be done in conjunction. So it's like just letting folks know this is likely a 2021 project to do them at the same time.
And I think we spoke about that. It was about just the ease of getting the job done, and
there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained with some of the in either direction. We had, if it's a pool fill-in And fortunately, we have been, we talked about, trying to do research-based decisioning. That's something that just in the past 4 or 5 months, I feel like this council is trying to move towards. We had over 170 respondents around Burwood Park, what to do with Burwood Park. I don't know what they've got on Victory, but that's not a small number when the ward has 2,700 or something like that. That's a good clip of people. So whatever they decide to do, we have some backing for the right direction. And if that is the direction, then they definitely don't want to be having Evans or O'Rourke be filling pools individually. That is just dumb. So that's why his advice was to don't split this up the way you guys have that in the budget. Combine them, do them 20.
I think that's smart.
So there's the Burwood.
All right, yeah. So moving on, lastly, is so at our last meeting, Mr. Thompson was kind of expressing, Fenwick Park has some needs, Hunter Park, Ward 4 parks have some needs. And looking at our budget, we don't really have anything right now as far as anything in the plan for them, which I think is a little bit of an oversight because they do have some severe needs going on. I think Hunter Park more so than Fenwick. So what I want to do is get with Mr. Thompson and see if we can carve out some of our schedule to go down to Fenwick and look at the shelter housing, the playground. I know those wood kind of guardrails are in rough shape, and just kind of itemize some lists and then compile them together and kind of see what we come up with. And then from there, go into kind of looking to see how much it would be and adding that to our capital improvements list. And I'm going to do the same thing with Mr. Dracy at Hunter. And he's going to look more into the place that the school donated to see if it can fit there and what we can do to make that happen for Hunter Park, since it is a very large play set and that's a very large park and there's more space. And from the projects we've had already with the things that we want to do with the stairs at Millcrest, and it's just like a little kind of overall update. The stairs at Millcrest, the bleachers, even the Lisa Tanner Park project, we're saving $62,400 from what we actually had budgeted, kind of a max. So there is definitely going to be some room there for Fenwick and Hunter, and hopefully still being able to come in under that amount, because we obviously don't want to just go spend all this, but we do want to make sure these parks are addressed, their needs are addressed. We also have the $30,000 for playground equipment like broken swings, stuff like that we need, that we can tap into if it's just like, hey, this swing set's great, but one of these kids' swings broken, we need a couple of those, maybe buy a couple of those and go around. I know Donna Lake told me that she ordered a bunch of swing sets, so we do have a bunch of extra swing sets at, not swing sets, swings. Yeah, the seats and that at Public Works, I believe, so we can, if there's any need for that down there, we can make sure they get those. We did get an email earlier from a gentleman. Pull it up real quick. It was Ian and Lindsay Matthews. They're planning a park cleanup on July 23rd, 6:30 to 8. And I told them I would share that with you guys and kind of encourage to be a part of it. I put it in my schedule earlier. I'm definitely going to go be a part of it and, help them out and clean the park up. And it'd be a good way to kind of, meet them, because I've not met them. I just got their email. And just kind of see
park is it?
Hunter. Okay. And just kind of see, where their mind's at. And I did message them back and I said, we're always looking for community support, especially up there in Ward 4 with Hunter and Fenwick, people to get behind it. And I told them how we were going to try to come up with a plan for some immediate needs, some long-term needs. I'm not sure that, Fenwick needs like a complete overhaul, but I know it needs a lot of work down there. Hunter the same. And that we would be putting like survey together to kind of see when we get to that step to add stuff to it or change things to like you guys did with Burwood. Like I said before, I want to use that as kind of like a model of what we do when we add equipment to parks. If we're going to take some out and change it, like what do they want? Like what does the community want there? And I told them I would love their support up in that area to help push that out and get some responses in. So I think that would be a very good thing. It's July 23rd, 6:30 to 8. They're going to be at Hunter Park cleaning up. I think it would be really cool if we could all get up there. I know we all got busy schedules. But just to put that on the books, it's July 23rd, 6:30 to 8. And I'm not sure your schedule, but I would like to get up there and kind of look at Fenwick pretty quickly within maybe even this weekend or next weekend,
Yeah, we'll
and
figure
just
that out.
kind of start putting a plan together and hopefully start having like a more regular set, maybe monthly parks meeting and maybe more often if need be. So with that, has anybody else got anything? You guys got anything to add?
That's it, sir.
All right. Well, that concludes.
Well,
This-
let people know how much you've raised with the.
Oh, yeah, actually. Yeah, so it was suggested to put it out for the Lisa Tay Memorial Park for fundraising to kind of get some volunteer donations and that. And we were able to earn $3,700, 1,000 of it coming from Norwood professional firefighters, which was really huge. And it goes to help us with some pretty significant upgrades, especially, I was telling Mr. Thompson, the 14-foot gate they have. Right now it's a hinge gate and it's really heavy and it drags and it's just, it causes the problems on the tearing up the grass, not keeping a nice, good look. So what we're able to do, since we were able to get that much money, is instead of getting a swing gate or even a two-piece swing gate, we're able to get a rolling gate. So I think that's going to be, a lot better in the long haul, especially if Public Works has to come in there to get down to Waterworks 4. It'll create more space for their vehicles to get into. So, that's definitely huge. I very much appreciate everybody that donated. Help with you guys sharing it and putting it out there and suggesting it. So that was definitely huge, and it was very nice to get the community involved with it. We're going to do a plaque for those that donated. That'll be in the park as well, so they can come and see, hey, we had a hand in this. So yeah, that's all I got. That's this Parks, Recreation, Public Spaces Committee meeting.